Welcome to the second episode of Coffee and Whiskey with Ivy. I've had a great week of drinking coffee and whiskey and watching the best theatre in town. It's called Parliament. Poor Mr. Najib being hunted by his own people. And of course, Han Fook Kwang's very good article, People Power Rules but Still Needs a Leader. I respect Han Fook Kwang, he writes very well, especially when he says this. At times it seemed he could get away with almost anything. All leaders do this because their cronies allow it to happen. They allow their leaders to become corrupt and in the process create a big problem for their own country, which will eventually blow up. His point number 3, there is no magic formula except that the people deserve the leaders they get. And he's suggesting that people should do something about it. Before we look at our neighbor and start laughing about what's happening there, look at our own system. Remember, when you point a finger at someone, 3 fingers are pointing back at you. What can 90% of the plebs who live in government housing, who work for the government, who's struggling every day, do about change in their country? They have no choice. They will live in it, they will be pushed to a corner, and then suddenly they'll all create an uprising. This nominated Member of Parliament, MP Kwek Xiao Yin, she has some very good points, and I think the government should listen to what she's saying. You know, she referred to the fact that when she spoke to people about the recent torture of PJ Tam by our Minister of Law for 6 hours, all her friends understood what she was talking about. But General Puducherry said, when he asked his constituency about the topic, I quote, "Nobody asked about it, nobody wanted to talk about it, nobody was the least bit concerned about it." General Puducherry, listen to people who got the guts to tell you the truth. If your constituency keeps telling you everything is great, you must be living in La La Land. I read the newspapers not just for politics, but for what is developing in our country. And this interesting article about students get halo effect of nursing prompted me to bring this topic to this show. When we tell our young nurses about nursing, stop just talking to them about real-life patient care, teaching students how to clean wounds on a mannequin and how to tie a sling. The most important part is tell them about cleaning up piss and shit, right? Because I approached a young Singaporean male nurse who is waiting before he goes to the army, and I offered him the job of $20 an hour to look after my husband, simply to give him his medicine and accompany him to the toilet. When he heard the toilet part, he immediately gave up. So don't create a halo on nursing. Make sure the kids understand that cleaning piss and shit is part of the job. As usual, when we have a disaster, you will have promotions withheld, you will have safety rules to be tightened, etc., etc., etc. And the other article I read, when a judge collapsed suddenly, everybody should be trained to do life-saving CPR, and I would add that every young man and woman should be trained to swim, should be trained to be able to protect themselves and protect others, and to be able to use a gun if they have to protect our country. Every year it happens. The Geylang bazaar is getting more and more expensive. I would like to ask this question. So who is really making the money? For a 2.7 meter by 2.7 meter space, you have to pay nearly 20,000? Who are these people? Why doesn't the mayor or the Geylang constituency Member of Parliament run this thing by himself and make the money for the country, instead of allowing these people to make this obscene money in a month and actually making the cost of living higher. I am quite concerned about our environment because I have always lived in a country where our environment has been quite good, but lately you hear of things like asbestos debris, and we also had the dumping on the acres land. So to me, it is good that we have found this asbestos, and to me it is good that we are looking at our environment, and it is great news that we are building new reefs so that our corals can start living again, etc. Because when I was a youngster, you could go swimming and boating and the water was absolutely clear. So I would like to ask the question, what controls are there in place and which agency is totally responsible for dumping? Come out to the Kranji countryside where I live and you will see truckloads of all kinds of things trucked in and dumped onto the ground, and who is ultimately responsible for it? I would like to know which agency is totally responsible for land filling, because you look at the ACRES project, right? The BCA were there, the AVA were there, the SLA was also responsible, and the NEA, and yet all that dumping was brought in. We haven't got the answer to the end of that story. Now for another serious topic of why so many young boys are being abused by their stepfathers or young girls. We are just jailing the perpetrators. Let me make a suggestion. Don't jail them. Don't waste state money by feeding them in jail. Hang them. Hang one or two of these bloody perverts and stop this from continuing to happen in our country. I've had a great week of drinking coffee and whiskey and watching the best theatre in town. It's called Parliament. I will love watching Parliament. I think they have the best actors and actresses there. You know, they speak with a lot of passion, they smile, they look sad. They are such good actors and actresses. Watch the expressions of the ones who are listening. They are smiling and nodding as if though these people are saying such wonderful ideas. Singapore, being young, has not seen entrenched notions of class and caste, which are common in older countries such as Britain and India. And all those ones watching also nods their head. Who said this? None other than our leader. He should just go to the supermarkets and see who shops in Sheng Siong, who shops in Cold Storage, and who shops in NTUC FairPrice. I shop in NTUC FairPrice. I shop in NTUC FairPrice UT and NTUC FairPrice Finesse or Finest in Thomson. There's a big difference even in NTUC FairPrice. Thank you for watching my show once again, and do share it with all your friends so that we can create a thinking nation. Cheers!